Has Ferrari bamboozled IndyCar racing yet again? A new quote from Matteo Binotto is out there talking about IndyCar, and it's not positive news, at least in the short term. We got to talk about it, of course. And one of the best onboard pieces of footage I've seen in a long time, and it's going to lead to a discussion about not only this footage, but about promotion and IndyCar as we head into what may be one of the most important years in that sport's history. Let's get into it. And welcome back to the official digs. I'm no longer in my hotel room or a hotel room somewhere along I-95. We're back at home, and I'm going to be able to provide a lot of coverage in the coming days. Of course, the Daytona 500 is next week, so that's going to be a very NASCAR-heavy week. But today, we're talking mainly IndyCar. And of course, you've probably clicked on this video because of Ferrari and the ongoing saga, which has really been almost a 40-year saga. Well, really, probably a 70-year saga at this point with Ferrari and Indianapolis. Check out my video on that if you want to find out the full story. But in current year, Matteo Binotto has been talking quite a bit. And so has Roger Penske. And again, I made the bold claim, and it's seeming like it was very bold, at least at this point, that Ferrari would eventually join IndyCar. Now, things have progressed, and perhaps in terms of IndyCar and their involvement, they've regressed in the last few months. Now, as we know, one of the big factors that involved Ferrari looking at IndyCar racing anyway was the budget cap that they have now agreed to based on the Concord Agreement that Formula One and the FIA put forth for them to follow. That meant that they had staff that they needed to relocate because they were going to have too much resources going towards the building of their car, and they needed something else to be built in place. So they started looking at World Endurance Championship, and they've talked an awful lot about IndyCar. I know a lot, and for whatever reason, ever since this started, so many people have been insisting that World Endurance Championship would be the most likely landing spot for Ferrari. And I kept saying, all they're ever talking about is IndyCar. So that indicated to me that IndyCar was priority number one if Ferrari was going to expand into a new category of racing. Well, as it turns out, at least as we're going to read here in just a second, short term, their resources are going to Haas F1. Oh no. Well, they're going somewhere. So let's just read the quote. This actually came from a source that I hadn't heard of before. And I'm certainly not going to discredit them. It comes from GP fans. And this is the quote from Binotto himself talking about Haas and IndyCar. So he said, "We have been in contact with them," meaning IndyCar, "and we decided certainly in the short term that it will not be the case that they will join the series because it represents an investment and we need to stay focused on Formula One. But discussions are still going on, maybe more in the medium/long term. I think why not? But today, still, our main and priority focus is Formula One." Okay, so it's not a hard no by any stretch of the imagination. And it's interesting, actually, because one of the things that Ferrari seemed to talk about quite a bit when exploring the IndyCar option, there was a quote in the New York Times, again, got videos and all this stuff, so you can go back and check it out if you want. But the quote in the New York Times specifically talked about Ferrari being interested in having a lot more, I don't want to say control, because then everybody's going to start, oh my God, politics, in the comments, but they wanted a little more ability to develop their own or have their own identity in IndyCar. Now, whether that was chassis, whether that was more engine, whether that was, dampers, some things that are open in IndyCar and some things that are not open in IndyCar, they were not specific because, of course, they were talking to the New York Times. The New York Times is not going to be like, well, what specifically do you want to open on the IndyCars? But now it seems like they are talking like there would be too much money right now, they don't want to invest. I mean, the specific word used by Binotto was invest. They don't want to invest right now in a different series. They want to remain focused on Formula One. And at least from the perspective of the factory Ferrari team, it makes sense to me. I mean, clearly they are struggling. They're not performing very well right now. I could understand that. And I think a lot of people pointed to that, rightly so, when all these discussions were going on, because it's like, well, why would you split your focus away from Formula One when you've clearly got some issues there? And I would say, well, I guess the thing is, I would say, does pouring money into Haas make the factory team better? I don't know. I think, at least from what I know, and I don't know very much about Formula One, at least in the truly expert sense, but it seems like the problem with their car is the engine, the power unit. So I wonder if they had 4 cars doing development work with the factory engine, factory parts, would that accelerate their development process and allow them to catch up to the rest of the field quicker? I don't know. Is that where the resources are being funneled right now? Or is it somewhere else within Haas? I don't know. It is interesting, though, that I think the door, Binotto himself, again, left that door wide open. Now, what does medium to long term mean? What does short term mean? Could short term just mean next year, 2 years from now? I mean, the IndyCar regs for 2024 now? That's 3 years away. I mean, is that medium term to Ferrari? And if so, they may still be in the discussions to join the series when the next regulations come out. If they're still talking to IndyCar and they still are coming out and stating, we're interested in this, I don't see a reason why not. Now, I didn't hear this personally, but it came secondhand from a source I would trust very much at this point. There were some rumblings in the garage at Daytona that there may be some news coming on the third engine manufacturer front with IndyCar. And I took it to understand that it did not involve Ferrari. Now, there are a lot of teams within the IMSA and IndyCar paddock that have connections to manufacturers in IMSA. And again, without going much further into speculation land, I would speculate that if there is talk, if there are rumblings, that may have something to do with a manufacturer that's associated with a team in IMSA that is also in IndyCar. But it could be any manufacturer that's there, and there's a lot of manufacturers. So I don't know. The third IndyCar manufacturer continues to be this amazing, great mystery. I guess it at least allows me to make a lot of content about virtually nothing, so I guess I'll take that. All right, something that's not nothing is some of the great content that wasn't produced by me coming out of the test at Sebring. And this in particular comes from Will Power. And we've seen in recent years, unfortunately, the visor cam footage go away on the NBC Sports broadcast. But Will Power and his PR team brought it back. And after watching this footage, I have to tell you, I mean, okay, so I've never driven an Indy car. I've never driven at these sorts of speeds. I have driven an open wheel car before. This gives you an incredible sense of what that is like. And at the same time, this car obviously is fitted with the halo and the aero screen. So I'll let you just watch this footage, and then I'll kind of comment on it, because I want to see if you guys see the same thing that I do. And be sure to follow. Link will be in the description. Will Power, retweet this video because I think it needs to be seen. So let's roll the clip. And so I now have several questions about this because that is some absolutely badass footage. The first question is, why didn't a video like this come out the first day that that aero screen tested on the racetrack? It seems like such an easy PR win, especially from a series perspective. Number one, everybody wanted to know what that looked like, especially from the cockpit. There were so many questions. Oh, is the halo going to block visibility? Is the screen going to be able to be seen through? Looking at this, the halo bar is completely unobtrusive. The screen itself completely unobtrusive. And it took us 2 years to get definitive footage, not just he said, she said, to find that out. How did that happen? But the second point is, and this is going to lead into a much more broad discussion, because it is so lifelike, it feels so much like you are sitting in the cockpit. This is something that I think really could appeal to, I don't necessarily want to say casual fans, but I think it would give people who aren't completely ingrained in the sport a sense of what it is like to drive a race car of this caliber. It's really great footage, and I just wish, and it's amazing to me, and I feel like they almost bumbled into it in 2017. But IndyCar had such a good thing going. I mean, it really did with their social media presence. They had the streams on YouTube and Facebook of practice and qualifying. You had Visor cam footage uploaded weekly, and those were getting hundreds of thousands and sometimes millions of hits. I mean, it's just like, damn. It's like, because the series is headed in such a good direction right now, too. I mean, I mentioned that in the Roman Grosjean video yesterday. You've got all of the angles covered. You've got so many motorsports fans that are going to be invested and interested in IndyCar racing. You've got the Formula One people who, if they're not already in because Alonso's been there or Marcus Ericsson, they're going to be here because they're looking to see what's going on with Roman Grosjean. Jimmy Johnson, NASCAR fan. The thing is about the NASCAR fans, the Rolex 24 TV rating was like through the roof. And a lot of that, of course, has to do with Chase Elliott. But I think some of it also has to do with Jimmy Johnson. I think he's going to have a much bigger impact on viewership on television than I think a lot of people think, are kind of anticipating. I'm just throwing that out there right now. Scott McLaughlin, again, abroad, he's a huge deal. So you got all of these factors, and yet the presence of IndyCar on social media just isn't there right now. And I will admit, they are doing a little bit better. Credit to Dave First over there. He's putting out some cool stuff. Just today, did an interview with Willie T. Ribbs, which was fantastic. I don't want to spoil the big kind of reveal in it, but let's just say it involves Roger Penske and a dance floor. You should watch that. But it's not enough. And there's not enough stuff about the current guys. They're doing some great stuff with like Willie T. Ribbs and AJ Foyt and Kenny Brack. The current guys need to be pushed. The current product needs to be pushed. There's so much content that could be created out there that's not being created. Case in point here with this Will Power video. That is a fantastic way to market the sport. I want to see more of that. If it comes down to the PR people having to do it, this is my plea to you, PR people. You're my only hope, or you're our only hope. But there's some, this sport can reach people, and I believe that. And I hope that they take advantage of this year, because it's not quite what Alonso did in 2017, but I think you've got a lot of factors coming in there. Certainly not like a Mansell in 93, but you've got a lot of factors converging here that you could really have a breakout year if you play your cards right. And again, I get the state of the world. I get that things aren't perfect and there's not a lot of budget for things to do, but other series seem to be managing to get their stuff out there a little bit better. So that's it, man. That's today's video, unless something crazy breaks at 10 p.m. and I have to do a bathroom video. Hoping that doesn't happen. It's good to be back at home. And, well, not as good as Florida. Florida was pretty cool, I have to say. But I enjoyed that trip, and I just, again, thank you guys for allowing me to do what I do. It's fantastic to be able to bring you these videos, and especially when I get to go to the racetrack. I am going to try to work. I don't know how I'm going to pull it off, but I'm going to give it the old college try to be at that Roman Grosjean test. on the 22nd of February in Barber. I don't know how open that is going to be or if there's any place to kind of do spy shots, but if that's a possibility, I'll try to do it for sure. So thank you guys so much for watching. This has been David Land on YouTube. Subscribe for more motorsport content, and I will see you in the next video.